What's happening? I believe I am live. It's been a minute. Excited to be back here streaming with you guys. I can see what everybody's talking about. All right. Let's see here. I think we're all good to go. Yeah, all right. Good stuff. Well, we're going to talk about melodic chromaticism today and some different ways of playing our chromatic scale in improvising. And we're going to talk about melodic cells, approach tones, enclosures, how to practice them. Really excited about this. I'm going to play a little bit and get some melodic chromaticism going over some standards that I like to practice. I'm going to start with Solar. Hold on here. Let me get this up. I'm going to move this around. There we go. Solar is my favorite tune to practice. And so when I'm playing Solar, I'm really thinking about, well, in this context right now, is I'm going to be thinking about adding little chromatic enclosures around my chord tones and using those as launch pads, like improvised launch pads around my chord tones, right? And then putting myself into a solo, kind of like, I created a little enclosure surrounding my chord tone and then soloing off of that, right? So I'm going to play a little bit. And also, I should mention that any of these things that I'm talking about today, because you guys are here with me live, if you use the code SHIFT5 on the Jazz Lesson Video website, you get $5 off a book. It's pretty cool, just for coming out here and hanging out. And if you have any questions, oh, yo, what's up? How's it going? If you have any questions while I'm streaming, let me turn down my microphone so I don't blast your ears. And I'm going to play some Solar. See if you can hear some of these melodic cells coming out here. So hopefully everything kind of came out on time for you guys there as far as the backing track and whatnot goes. Yeah, appreciate... Oh, yeah, here we go. Got another question. A month ago, I was at the Jazz Lesson Videos headquarters with Chad, and he was like, man, what are you playing on? I was telling him I was kind of going through some mouthpiece problems, and he was like, man, you want to try this Nexus Edge? And I was like, I've never tried it before. Boom. Immediate sound, ease of playing, and just everything kind of flows. I feel like I have nothing between my air and the note speaking, which is really cool. And I also got this new neck that helps. So all this stuff is kind of new to me, but really digging the mouthpiece. So thanks for asking about that. Someone said, what would be the opposite to playing chromatically? I've been playing it for a lot of time. Feel like I'm not placing them well enough. Like my playing gets too chromatic. Oh, good question. Okay. So chromatic playing is playing, in simple terms, it's playing the chromatic scale a lot. So when we say like approach tones and enclosures, we're adding notes that aren't diatonic to a scale, right? So diatonically playing over, over solar would be like playing D melodic minor on the one chord, then A Dorian, then D Mixolydian, then G major, then G minor, and then C7, right? We're playing completely down the middle, like in the chord changes. So that would be one example of playing diatonically, right? Boom. Now, anything that is not in those home scales, the scales that are from the modes that these chords come from, would be a chromatic note or a non-chord tone. So playing chromatically could be playing a lot of like approach tones, like I'm on purpose playing notes that are not in my diatonic scales and approaching the diatonic scale tones with non-diatonic scale tones or chromatic notes. So that could be considered chromatic playing. Another thing that could be considered chromatic playing is playing what we call chromatic cells, which are a bunch of chromatic notes put together that don't really have a tonal center, like this. That would be a bunch of chromatic cells put together, and then I improvised with, right? I just kind of put them in a random order. Now, you can think about a key center, like I resolved to F major, but I wasn't in the moment of making that line. I was just saying, okay, I'm going to play chromatically. I'm going to put a bunch of chromatic cells together and play them in that style. So that's another definition of playing chromatically. Okay, got some more questions in the chat here. I feel like the chromaticism would work best on fast lines, and that when focused on diatonic, I make strong statements. Yeah, totally a good statement there. A bit laggy. I'm sorry for the lag. Let me know if it's really, really bad. I know my Wi-Fi might be a little weird, but let me know if you can hear me still. All right. Yeah. So as far as, let me answer your other question. Yeah. Feel that the chromaticism would work best on fast lines, and that when focused on diatonic, I make strong statements. Yeah. So for me, a chromatic line can be a strong statement even at a slow tempo, as long as you're focusing on target tones. And what target tones are mainly your chord tones on big beats of the measure. So beats 1 and beats 3, that's a lot of the times when we're moving harmonically. So if I use beats 1 and beats 3 as my harmonic time, where I put my chord tones, everything else can be really chromatic, and I'm still, like, the ear is really hearing the harmonic time being played. We're waiting for things to resolve in those right moments. So even if I'm playing a bunch of chromatic cells, I'm still placing chord tones on the big beats. It sounds like I'm playing the changes. So even though everything else except the downbeats of 1 and 3 are chromatic, it still sounds like I'm really playing the changes. So I'm on purpose playing a bunch of chromatic cells and a bunch of chromatic enclosures, but making sure that my harmonic time, where my diatonic chord tones are on the downbeat. So even though it's mainly chromatic, you can play really strong statements diatonically and in the changes if you know where the harmonic time is. So great question on that. Ryan, love your playing. How do you produce that screaming altissimo sound? Really want to know that. you do it the best. I appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, as far as altissimo screaming goes, it's just humming or kind of grunting's maybe the wrong word, but I'm just kind of vocalizing a sound when I go up there. So here's a clean version. Here is a moan version. So I'm just going when I'm playing, right? I got this from listening to Brecker, and really probably the number one influence on this part of my playing is the great Steve Grossman, who is right, oh man, this mirror image thing, right there. And it's funny, there's a lot of recordings of him with Elvin Jones where you can hear him actually vocalizing these notes through the microphone, because he's got the microphone so far into his bell, and the it's so hot in the mix, like you can hear him going, like when he's playing. So I was like, man, I gotta try that, and it's just a kind of a different, it's an effect, right? Sometimes the note cannot come out as good because the air is being disrupted by the vocalization, right? So you have to be kind of careful in finding that balance of like what's going to be the right way of doing this and what's kind of like manipulating the tone of the note, which is not what you want to do. But I've experimented around with finding this kind of level of, upper vocalization. Like if I try and growl, the note really gets manipulated. But if I try and go like just kind of grunt up top a little bit, it helps the note still speak. So that's what I've been experimenting with. Thanks for the question. Sorry again about the lag. I play tenor and alto, but I want to eventually play soprano. Any tips? Soprano is a completely different instrument. Embouchure-wise, got to be way tighter. Corners are absolutely more pinched, but it's still a saxophone, so all the fingering's the same. You just got to really work on the vocalization of it and in your embouchure and how you're attacking the mouthpiece. But you'll get it. If you're a good saxophone player, you'll be a good soprano player. That's what I usually, the difference like this in like a Patrick Bartley style line. I'm not sure exactly. Thank you for being so generous and sharing your knowledge on the Screaming Altissimo. You are already one of the greats of the saxophone. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the kind words. Plays his absolute butt off and can do all styles of music, man. I listen to him and I learn a history lesson when I'm listening to his solos, something I absolutely strive to do myself. And so if you're referring to what I think you're kind of referring to as far as like playing maybe more traditional style solos where it's like only, triads and chords or chord tones, I was shedding a Lester Young solo today, and like the way that he plays a major 6 pentatonic so musically and in the time and in the beat, very reminiscent to how Coltrane plays a home scale when he's going through, like impressions and like pentatonic shifting. He still kind of goes to this one scale and makes 5 notes work for like a minute long, So being creative with just those, diatonic chord tones is a great exercise. And that's, probably the number one thing that I still practice whenever I'm not feeling great about my playing is my maintenance practicing is working on my chord tones and working on voice leading diatonically. And then, once I feel more comfortable with it, then I try and go about like playing it, with approach tones and enclosures, kind of what we're talking about today with the theme, right? Let me play Solar again, and I'm just going to work on like playing enclosures specifically. So I'm going to be targeting on downbeats. Excuse me, sorry. My Thanksgiving food. I'm going to be on purpose targeting notes that are on the downbeats, so chord tones on downbeats like roots and thirds specifically, and I'm going to be playing enclosures getting to those downbeats. Check it out. So still chord tones are the focus, but I'm sprinkling these enclosures in. All right. Sorry if I'm checking on the stream. It's a little laggy, but we're working with what we got right now. Sorry, my connection right now is really kind of wonky with my new studio setup here. Gonna hopefully fix that soon. Yeah, so we got some other questions here. Got any solos you recommend, like for transcription? If you could be more specific, let me know. But yeah, so getting into some of the things that I practice to get this language in, besides just experimenting around with soloing. Oh, here we go. How did the jazz greats in the past learn how to play bebop, like Sonny Stitt and Clifford Brown were so young, but playing bebop lines and perfectly outlining chord changes? They didn't have iReal Pro. Yeah, I mean, obviously I wasn't alive during that time. From the stories I've heard from people that played with those guys that I've played with, have said, listening to recordings and going to jam sessions and experimenting. I mean, there's stories about legends, practicing like 15 or 20 hours a day, just listening to the records and transcribing, listening back. And it was, purely an oral tradition back then where you would just listen to it and then try and copy it and then understand it as you go. At least that's my understanding of the process. And, that's kind of like, that's kind of like what we still should all be doing, except now we have great resources like jazz lesson videos, like, Open Studio and all these different ones, like where we have great, organized books and things to lead you in these directions to be able to get to a level, hopefully like that. Obviously Clifford Brown and Sonny Stitt are kind of like untouchable, but, that's my goal when I'm practicing, is to try and, get somewhere close to those guys, my heroes. And still keeping this an oral tradition and learning off of the records and listening and all that stuff, but having more of a kind of an organized guide to get you there, And both Chad, myself, Nathan have all gone to school. I mean, Chad was, he says that he was a college or jazz school dropout. Definitely worked out well for him. But Nathan and I both have master's degrees. Nathan, I think, almost has his PhD. And in these schools that we go to, it kind of shows an organized way of digesting some of this information, because there's so much out there. And that's what a lot of these books that we give and courses that we have at Jazz Lesson Videos are supposed to show you. They're supposed to lead you in a direction that helps you get to, these levels that you want to get to. And so listening and, like a good teacher, and I've had great teachers that have just said, hey, go and listen to the recording, transcribe it, come back, and then let's talk about it. That doesn't always work for everybody, right? But that was the only way it was back, in those days, from what I've been told. Like I said, I wasn't there, but from what I've been told, right? So that's one way of doing it. But I think, in this new era of jazz education, where we have all these resources and all of these ways of listening and communicating with other musicians, like we should all learn from each other, and we should all be as organized as we can, I think, with the way that we learn and share, and communicate like we're doing right now. And so the way that I like to see it is we take the lessons from the recordings and all of the transcriptions that we do, and we digest them and analyze them. And all these concepts that we teach here at Jazz Lesson Videos and have books on are all coming from the things that all of the greats learned from and continue to learn from. So, we absolutely, are taking, like, melodic scales come from solos that we've transcribed, that we only know melodic scales because of the way that this person plays. We see these like little bits of things like, oh, let's practice that. I got to go and see the Michael Brecker practice journals at William Patterson University. They let us look through all of his practice journals that they have. And he's got these like little, had these little cells like written out, and he would put them on all 12 keys. He didn't write them in all 12 keys, but he would put them on his, on his horn in all 12 keys. He would date it. He would write where he got it from, write what it is to him, his definition of it. And then he would practice it. And, that's the way he did it, right? And these books are just a little bit more of an organized, like, here's all 12 keys, here's what to do, kind of thing. But I mean, practice journals have been around for a really long time. Sure, for transcriptions, thanks. My university professor talks always about an exercise where you play a measure, then rest one. Yeah, like trade with yourself. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for answering all my questions. I have so many. Hey, man, that's what these are for. Absolutely. I love connecting with you guys, on this level, for sure. Yeah. So, as far as like, but back to what you were saying, like the like how do we organize this stuff and outline changes. It's about listening to the recordings, analyzing those transcriptions, and then taking little pieces of those information and diving into them. Like the way Sonny Stitt plays a dominant 7 chord. Maybe there's a really cool thing that you like about it. Okay, transcribe it, write it down, analyze it. What is it doing? What is it targeting? Oh man, this is a chromatic cell. Oh crap, I want to play chromatic cells. Go on YouTube, chromatic cells. Boom, jazz lesson videos pops up. I mean, there's so many different ways of getting around it, or getting to the topic, right? But that's what I've done, in my practicing, and that's why I hit Chad up for lessons when I was an undergrad, because I loved his playing, and I was transcribing it already and transcribing people that I knew he was influenced by, but I couldn't 100% figure it out. So I was like, hey, can you help me? And then he showed me all these resources that he was writing, and it really helped me get more organized with my playing, my thoughts, my practicing, all that stuff. And I'm not just trying to like sell you this or anything. Like, this is just legitimately my path. I would say this to anybody, whether I was on this channel or my own channel or anybody's channel. This is just how I've practiced and learned. And then someone said, I watched that short of you shredding over oleo. I also want to learn to shred. How can I structure solos if I want to shred? Okay, well, shredding, this kind of goes into what I wanted to talk about today. So this is a great melodic cell resource that we have, literally just called Melodic Cells, 64 exercises for building the ultimate technique. Because melodic cells are great for technique building. If you can play these finger twister exercises on your instrument, I mean, it's great for overall technique, not just for shredding. But a lot of what shredding is scale patterns or cell patterns that you have really well memorized on your instrument, and then can manipulate and move and around your horn, right? Or around your whatever your instrument is. And so like a cell like this, if you can practice this in all 12 keys, right? Like, if you can play that really well, then you can start to organize them in different ways and put them in all over the horn and create shredding lines that don't have a key center, that if you learn how to resolve, can go anywhere. Check it out. So I'm thinking about like, let's give a progression here just for, let me give some context here. Okay, so let's go to a 2-5. Let's just loop, to C. So I'm just going to play a bunch of chromatic cells, but then on the 3rd bar, I'm going to resolve to C. Here we go. So I practice a lot of these cells, and then I'm able to just say, okay, shred until you get to C, right? I'm just, I'm not thinking about any tonalities, any notes or whatever. I'm just starting on patterns that I played in practice, putting a bunch of them together, and then resolving to C. That's really it. Okay, got a lot of action in the chat. I try to learn jazz solos like Sonny Stitt especially, but each solo is so heavy and I get exhausted learning the solo by ear. Do you take breaks while transcribing? Totally. Yeah. I like to do, like, depending on how dense the solo is, like maybe 20 or 30 minutes, really transcribing, trying to get a lot of it down, and then taking a quick, maybe a coffee break, right? Take a sip of coffee. When I was in undergrad, I would go walk around the practice room building once, or in grad school, get some fresh air, go to the bathroom, get a fresh little mind, and then come back. So totally that way. No shame in taking breaks. People don't understand how much concentration it requires to transcribe and learn a solo by ear. Jazz soloists should be paid more than pop stars like Justin Bieber. Yeah, hey, I'm with you, bro. I'm totally with you. It does take a lot of time and effort, and I think a big, yeah. I mean, You said it great. Yeah, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to be able to do what we do, right? And a lot of concentration, a lot of hours doing the same thing. And I remember I took a lesson with a great saxophone player named Lucas Pino, and he said one time, like, I can't remember I think the exact quote was like, to sit in a room and do the same thing over and over again for hours is insane, right? Like, we sit in this little soundproof room or whatever and play the same lines over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until we get good enough at it to be able where we can play it like in our subconscious, right? Like, we know it so well we could be woken up in our sleep and play a solo. That's insane, right? But it's what we love to do, and so we're all a little crazy, I think, and obsessed with this music. I mean, I go through moments where I get a little overstimulated with music and practicing. I think we all do. And I get re-inspired because I find a recording where I'm like, I got to figure out how to do this. You know, I was listening to this Coltrane recording the other day, and I was like, oh my God, how do I get that? How do I get to that? You know, and that drive is always there for me. I just want to be able to be as good as a musician as my heroes, and you know, play this music at a level that they would be proud of, you know, and that I would be proud of, right? And I'm always searching for that. So definitely takes a lot of concentration, but for me, like, it's more of that, like, I got to get to that level. I want to get better. I want to be a better musician. I want to be able to play that Coltrane line or that whatever, that sound. I need that sound. How can I get to that moment? And then some gigs you get those moments, and then some gigs you fall a little short and you get more motivated to play the next moment, you know? So it's all growing pains, you know, in this music. And I don't think there's anything that's ever perfect, which is really cool. And that's another reason why I love the game of golf, because there's no such thing as perfect, I guess, unless you get a hole-in-one, right? But you can't get a hole-in-one on all 18 holes. It's impossible. So the game is never going to be perfect. And music is the same way. Jazz is the same way. It's never going to be perfect. It can be close. It can be your definition of perfect, but there's always room to grow, and I think that's beautiful. So yeah, going back to these chromatic cells and whatever, and stuff, I should say. Chromatic cells, approach tones, enclosures, all this stuff is kind of muscle memory, playing these with our scales, like using books like this to get these cells under our fingers so that they feel like they're just a part of us. And then being able to say, okay, I'm going to play a bunch of these cells in a row, and then I'm going to aim for a chord tone. Chord tones are number one. Oh, here we go. Hi, Ryan. Which schools did you apply to for graduate school? Sending my first application in on Monday. Good luck. I'm pulling for you. I only applied to one grad school, and I should tell NEC this, but I just applied to New England Conservatory because all I wanted to do was study with Jerry Bergonzi, and if I couldn't do that, I didn't want to go to grad school. I maybe I would have thought about that differently if I didn't get in and get a nice scholarship, but I for sure was like, if I just want to go here. And I wanted to move to Boston. I wanted to get out of Florida and, be more up north into that scene. So yeah, that was it. And then my second choice was probably going to be Temple because I had a relationship with Dick Oates and Terrell Stafford. So I knew that would be a cool home for me. And I love Philadelphia. And so that would have been cool. But yeah, NEC was my number one pick. And that was the only school I applied for. So maybe in the years, if I didn't get in, maybe years as it went by, I'd apply to other schools. But it was NEC or bust because I just wanted to be mini Bergonzi. So, yeah, that was mine. Good luck on your applications. I'm wishing you the best, and I hope you get into the school that you want to get into. Did you ever learn with George Garzone? Also, what was that like? I never took a lesson with Garzone. I don't know if he would know me. I obviously know him and would go listen to him at the Lily Pad with his group. We recognized each other a couple times, but it's been a few years since I've seen him. So I didn't get to study with him, but I have lots of friends that study with him, and he is a master. I mean, he's, been the instructor for like Seamus Blake, Melissa Aldana, Walter Smith, like all these people, I mean, were his students. Mark Turner, so he's the GOAT. When I was in Boston, I studied with Jerry Bergonzi at New England Conservatory, and I took a couple lessons with, I studied a full semester with Donnie McClaslin, and I also studied with Billy Hart while I was there. And then I took 2 lessons with Dave Liebman while I was in Boston as well. One was in person, one was on Zoom, and I learned so much. And then I also studied when I was up there a couple times with Ben Solomon in New York, and I still take lessons every once in a while with him. He's like one of my favorite living saxophone players for sure. Yeah. And then before that, I was a student of Chad's and a student of my dad, Scott Devlin, who's a saxophone player. And this guy down here, Alain Bradette, was my teacher after my dad. And yeah, so I've had lots of fantastic teachers, and I'm still learning every day from the generations above me, and even my peers, man. Oh my God, people that are on the scene doing it at my age, Sarah Hanahan, she's the one that pops in my head right off the bat. She's incredible, and I've transcribed some of her. You know what I mean? Like, we're all learning from each other, and it's cool to talk about stuff like that with other peers and whatnot. But yeah, I feel like you and Ralph Bowen should play together. That would be incredible. Oh yeah, I never studied with him. I have friends that have studied with him, and he's at Rutgers, I believe. He's a big influence on me musically, man. I transcribed a lot of his solos growing up. One in particular with Horace Silver, and I'm blanking on the tune. I can't remember, but yeah, I remember listening to him with Horace Silver and being like, oh my God, that like is like Michael Brecker, but different, you know? And Michael Brecker was like my hero, you know, and still is, but like was my main reason why I played tenor saxophone for the most part of my life. And I remember hearing Ralph Bowen, I was like, whoa, this is like a different kind of Michael Brecker, you know? And I went into a deep dive on his playing, and he's got so many great recordings. And Rutgers was on my list of schools that I was curious about for grad school. But Bergonzi is like my living hero, you know, as a person, as a player, as a teacher, you know what I mean? Like he's everything, you know, to me. So I really wanted to go and study with him and, you know, just, I took every class that he had offered, you know what I mean? Like I just wanted to be him, and still do, you know? And, here's an important thing for those that are going to grad school or really taking lessons with anybody. Ask if you can record your lessons. I asked if I could do that with my lessons with Jerry, and I listen back to them all the time, you know, and they're like mini lessons, you know. When I listen back, I'm like, oh man, I forgot that he said that, or oh, I gotta keep practicing that, you know. Same thing with Billy Hart. I would record every time we would play together, you know, and that was a huge thing. And you know, getting feedback on your own playing when you're playing with a master like that, you know, it really puts you into this like headspace of like, whoa, I remember when I was playing with him, I was like, I got to show him all my good stuff. You know, I got to play my best version of Ryan, you know? And when you're in those moments, a lot of new things and weird things come out, you know? And it was cool to listen back and be able to digest that and analyze that, you know, after the fact. And I still have those recordings, and I listen back to them every once in a while, and I'm like, sheesh, you know, why did I do that? Or man, I got to do more of that, you know? So super important to record your lessons, but make sure you ask permission before you do, whether you're taking them with a legend or not, you know, definitely important for that. So cool. So let's go into some of these other etudes and whatnot. So these are modern etudes with melodic cells. So kind of continuing with melodic cells. This is one of my favorites. This is one that Chad wrote. I'm pretty sure he wrote this in my lesson with me. Okay. What did you like most and least about grad school? Thing I liked the most about grad school was being next to Jerry Bergonzi and Billy Hart all the time, you know, and also, I mean, the incredible music students I met at NEC, you know, and the people I met in Boston that went to Berkeley and all that stuff. I mean, I still play. I met one of my closest friends, or two of my closest friends I met in Boston. Caleb Montague, a drummer. We met first day at NEC in class, and now we're like, you know, we're brothers. Ian Ashby, this great bass player. We were touring the world together nowadays, and playing a lot, and you know, he's like a brother to me. This saxophone player who I met before school even started, Dylan Kabilis, who I love very much, and I get to go see him in Nashville because he's living in Nashville, and just those connections that I made are near and dear to me. And then you know, obviously being able to play with Bergonzi and Billy Hart in lessons, and you know, seeing like Miguel Zenon walk through the halls, and you know, Melissa Aldana was there for a little while, just like, you know, that kind of stuff is just incredible. So those are all my favorite parts. You know, going to school is still going to school, doing assignments and all that stuff, but those moments were really cool, and the connections that I've made after that and still now are just awesome. It would have been amazing if you did a live at Emmett's place. That would have broken the internet. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, maybe, you never know. Maybe it'll be brought back. But yeah, I love watching those streams, you know. That's awesome. Some of my favorite things that I've listened to, you know, are absolutely there. I heard a Dave Liebman solo on soprano from Miles Davis on the corner, and I found, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Liebman with Miles is some of my favorite stuff. The story I heard from, I think it was from Dave, or maybe one of Dave's, colleague, friends, was he was with Elvin, the famous Live at the Lighthouse band, Elvin Jones, Steve Grossman, Dave Liebman, and Gene Perla. They were touring and doing great stuff, and Liebman got a call from Miles, and Elvin was like, he was kind of distraught about it. He didn't know. Elvin looked at Dave and was like, when Miles Davis calls, you go, and he left the band. That's the way it goes, man. And then I think Liebman ended up playing with Elvin again after Miles. But yeah, some of that stuff is just, some of my favorite Liebman stuff is with Miles for sure. I can't find out what mouthpiece he used. I don't know either. He was switching a lot from what I heard on soprano. LB Blues. So this LB Blues chorus is with melodic cells and different chromatic cells. So as you can see on big beats, we have chord tones. G natural here, E natural here, C sharp is not a chord tone, D natural here, C natural here, let's see, delayed resolution, E natural here, B natural here, G sharp, kind of a chord tone, G natural, leading tone, E natural, F sharp, D, right? So we're still resolving on beats 1 or beats 3 of the bars, and everything else is that chromatic language. Let's take a listen to how this one sounds. Favorite etudes that Chad's ever written. One of my favorites for sure, especially those first 4 bars. Man, you could practice that line over a blues for so many hours and use that as a launch pad. Check it out. So this is what I used to do all the time. After taking lessons with Chad, is I would just play the same tune over and over and over again at different tempos, and I would plug and play, use a line from his etude, and then improvise off of that. Check this out. Right? So I'm just using that as as a musical launch pad, right, into improvisation. Okay, so another thing in the chat, or a couple things in the chat here. Let me grab my coffee. Did you play with Melissa Aldana a lot or Grant Stewart? Neither, unfortunately. I've met Melissa Aldana a couple times, but we've never played together. Hopefully sometime soon. The jazz path seems so overwhelming. I feel like I need to transcribe the solos of all greats before I perform in public. But there's too many solos to learn. It's overwhelming. Totally overwhelming. I completely understand. Remember, we're improvising. We're creating. We're artists. And I don't think Van Gogh or any famous artist was worried about copying somebody else, and or at like learning shading techniques from other artists. Obviously you want to appreciate the craft and learn the history and speak the language, but at the same time we want to be able to improvise and create art, right? I'm a firm believer in sounding original. I think that's the thing that I'm always striving for. So that's just my opinion. And for me, I think being able to have the confidence to go out and believe in yourself and tell yourself, okay, I've listened to jazz. I love jazz. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to put my best foot forward and be an artist and go to a jam session, go play a gig. Don't be scared. Go out there and play. You're not going to, like, what's the worst that could happen, right? You might not like the way you played, but I bet you somebody will, and it'll resonate with somebody. So don't be afraid. Thank you. Also, the jazz greats in the past didn't have play-alongs or Ira Pro, so how would they practice playing over jazz standards? They just played along with recordings, from what I've been told, or they would have jam sessions. They get a rhythm section together, and they would play. But I was told, by the stories I've been told by people that lived in that time or knew people that lived in that time was they would play along to recordings all night long. Benny Golson, who was Coltrane's neighbor when they grew up together, he came to University of Central Florida when I was there for undergrad, and he gave a master class, and he said that him and John would like practice along in their mom's living room together. They play standards together, either duo or with a recording or anything like that, and that's just how they practiced, and Coltrane would then play, scale patterns for the next like 8 hours after they would leave, but they would just put on little concerts in their living rooms together, for their parents, just playing tunes together. I think maybe someone would play piano sometimes they play along to a record, but they would just make it work. iReal Pro is a great resource, but it's not the best thing in the world. I think the best thing to do is play along with the recordings. I have found, recordings of the Coltrane Quartet where it's just bass and drums, like, or Jimmy takes a walking bass solo. I practice along to that all the time. I practice along to when I record a record and I get the tracks from my rhythm section, we're all in ISO booths. I'll practice along to my buddies playing, at least it's real people. There's great recordings online too, like YouTube backing track companies that are live players that have recorded. Aebersold's all live stuff too. Speaking of Liebman, Dave Liebman would take solos in Aebersold's basement, and they would record the backing tracks, and that's what became the backing tracks. But Liebman's actually soloing. They would play like basically real live sessions with a soloist, and then that's what became the Aebersold track, so that the rhythm section could like hear something and interact with them. It's pretty cool. I want to solo over Woody and You, but the chord progressions stump me. Can you solo over that so I can get some ideas? Yeah, good idea. And then I'll probably wrap up the stream here. Cool. Yeah, and I'll try and keep the theme of chromatic cells going too. right. Yeah, so that's Woody and You. Trying to play some of those chromatic cells. So just to wrap up, my internet is lagging a little bit more, I think. And I think my camera's going to die here in a second. So just to wrap up what we were talking about today, these melodic cells and chromatic cells are a great way to add some of that shredding quality, or also just a different layer of voice leading to our lines, right? We're still always targeting chord tones on big beats, beats 1 and 3, just like we have in our etude books here. But adding some of these non-major scale qualities or non-diatonic chord scale things really adds a different level, getting tension and release, all of that stuff. The color, different layer of, or different texture or different shade of color. And as always, because you guys are here hanging out with me, if you look at the description below, if you click that link, you can use code SHIFT5 to get $5 off any of these etude books that we're talking about. So we got melodic cell exercises for jazz, modern etudes, melodic cells, and 20 approach note etudes. You can check out and get some money off, which is great, you know. And it's, you know, Black Friday weekend. Discounts are a big thing now. You know, after the holidays and during the holiday season. And it's a great time to practice and a great time to, you know, get some of these chromatic language bits into our playing. So thanks for joining me. Really great to see all the interaction. I love hanging out with you guys, and I'm excited to do this weekly for the holiday season, and excited about hanging out with you guys more and listening to your questions and answering them and talking. Yeah, absolutely. Going to do these live chats regularly. The next one will be next weekend. So let me look at the exact, that the 29th is today. What's a week from today? Yeah, it'll be the 5th or the 6th. Probably the 5th. So it'll be Friday the 5th is when we'll do it. Yeah, so if you're around, and we'll post about it on our socials so that you can check it out. Make sure you follow Jazz Lesson Videos on Instagram and Facebook, and also subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. But yeah, it's a great way to keep in touch. And yeah, make sure you use that discount code so that you can get some money off some of these great etude books. So great chatting with you guys. Thanks for being here. Happy holidays. And I'll see you next week. Friday the 5th, we will do another live stream. Awesome. See you guys later.